Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Art After Hours. I'm Shauna Robeson with Creating Space Coastal, and in this video, I will be demonstrating my guided intuitive art journal page. And this topic for this month, it's March 2023, is nourishment. And this week, we're going to talk about nourishment of food, how we can gain nourishment in our diet and find balance. So this is the journal page that I did regarding that. If you want to see how, stay tuned. Let's get started. This week, we're going to focus on the nourishment that we get in food, because basically food contains all the building blocks of what we need to build, rebuild, and replenish our cells and to make our body function. We as a society have kind of re-engineered food and focused on it being pleasing to the taste and less about the nourishment value of it and more about how much sales we can make. And as a result, we have so many yummy options that are very tasty, but not all of them are the best for us. So we have to be discerning about what we eat, because our bodies are designed to process natural foods. They're not designed to process these scientifically altered foods. So we have to just be aware, and with awareness, we can make the best choices for ourselves. Those who think they have no time for healthy eating will sooner or later have to find time for illness. And that's a quote by Edward Stanley. And sadly, that's really true. I think it's really easy to get in the mindset, and I'm 100% guilty of this too, of I don't have time to take a break and prepare something healthy. But our bodies eventually will say, you know what, I'm done, when we get sick, because we haven't kept our immunity up, and it's really easy to fall into a pattern of unhealthy habits, and they kind of spiral out, right? You start with getting into a routine of not making time to plan ahead for healthy eating. So I'm not going to try to, tell you what to eat. I'm going to give you some ideas of what to think about, because I'm not a nutrition expert. However, I do have a background of having had a really unhealthy relationship with food, and I actually ended up in a binge eating program. So I learned a lot about nutrition through that. I mean, I have a healthcare background, which I learned also about nutrition through that, but I really learned through this program that just worked on healthy relationship with food. And I found that I'm very much, tend to be an emotional eater. And not only that, but I realize it's every emotion. It's not just when I'm sad, it's when I'm bored, it's when I'm tired, it's when I'm happy and celebrating, it's when I'm sad, it's every emotion. So it's like, any excuse to just go to the cupboard. And boredom is one of probably the biggest things. It's like, if I'm doing something, as someone with ADHD, I need to be really stimulated by whatever activity I'm doing. So if I'm doing something that's not rewarding, to my my brain, I get bored, and then I want to eat. I'm like, okay, what can I eat? So recognizing some of whatever your triggers or your vulnerabilities are is really important, to kind of cut them off at the pass, right? If you know what those vulnerabilities are for you. I know that for me personally, if I buy a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups, I know I'm not going to eat just one ever in any instance. I mean, that's just what I know about myself. It doesn't mean that I can't choose to have that. It just means that for me, it's probably best if I just go buy it at the store across the street whenever I want it, and not buy a bag and have it in my house, because I know that I'm not going to make, there's going to be times in my day that I'm vulnerable to making that poor choice, when I'm busy working and doing something that's not stimulating, and then I'm craving something. I know that I'm going to go and, eat more than I want to. So by making better choices ahead of time and knowing those vulnerabilities that tend to push you into some of those not so healthy habits that you may have, you can sort of prevent you from getting in a position where you're vulnerable. And I found that was a really healthy way to think about it. When I was going through the program, one of my homework was to actually go to the store and get a Reese's peanut butter cup like every day. And not only that, but it was also to mindfully eat that Reese's peanut butter cup. It was to sit there and savor every flavor throughout the experience. The sound of the crinkling of the packaging, the smell of it, taking time eating it so that I could really enjoy every second of that, savor that experience. And it was not about guilting and saying this is bad. It's just saying, oh, you know what, I can do this in a healthy way. I can choose anything. There's no limits to what there's nothing that I say that I can't eat. I don't make those rules, because for me, and now this is maybe very different for you, I'm just sharing from my experience. For me, when I call something bad and naughty, that elevates my emotion, which then triggers me eating, because now I have guilt or shame around it. And so it becomes this unhealthy cycle of, craving something, eating it, then shaming myself, then feeling worse, and then just saying, well, I might as well eat the whole thing because I'm already bad. And I get into the cycle. So if I stop the guilt and I just say, you know what, anything goes, I just have to think about the moderation of it. That has taken a lot of that pressure off of me. And I don't find that I'm as prone to getting in those negative cycles. Here's the food pyramid, which, we probably remember from our childhood. And all of these things in here have a purpose. I'm not going to tell you don't use what you may call a diet that works for you, but all of these things in our diets have functions. So I do caution you to, if something says you can't have any of one of these things, to just maybe do more research on that, because that you may be missing out on what these things have to offer. Now, if you're getting all of these things in other sources, okay, fine, but just be careful. Fats are important too. Not now, maybe avoid trans fats, but there are some really healthy fats out there, like avocados and things like that. And we need fat in our body, because fat, it helps break down and absorb the vitamin D. So one thing I learned in that program is, you get this vitamin D enriched milk, but if you buy it non-fat, it doesn't have the fat to help you absorb the vitamin D. So if you're drinking non-fat milk with vitamin D enrichment and you don't have any fat when you're eating that at the same time, you're going to have a hard time breaking down that vitamin D. So it's pointless to have the vitamin D. So it's okay to have a little bit of fat. Maybe if you're having that, you could have it with something else, with an avocado or something like that. But we need those fatty acids. We need fat in our bodies to protect our organs, to help us insulate against winter, things like that. So, those are important too. Just being aware of how much you're getting. Proteins, obviously, we need proteins for repair, immunity, metabolism, even our fluid and pH balance it can help with. Fruits and vegetables have a lot of the vitamins and minerals. Oftentimes with our unnatural farming habits, our soils are maybe not as enriched with some of these vitamins and minerals. And so, that's why organic can be a little bit healthier, because they're more aware of making sure that the soil is enriched. But, having some extra vitamins to help us replenish some of those that maybe our soils aren't handling. But we need some of those for are those vitamins or minerals, elimination. The fiber that we get in fruits and vegetables are really important for processing our food and also our waste, helping us filter out things that we don't need. Of course, and they taste good because there's sugars in there. I will say one of the things I've also learned is when we drink like a fruit juice, and when we take out all the fiber, it's now just basically sugar. So as much as we think, okay, orange juice is maybe healthier than a soda pop, well, yeah, but not because it's lacking the sugar, because fruit juice without all the fibers has vitamins, but it also is pure sugar, and your body's going to absorb it very quickly. You'll go into that high glucose and then drop, and then you'll be craving more sugars. So don't think just because fruit juice comes from fruits that they're necessarily healthy. It's better to have the whole foods, unprocessed. All of the foods, the unprocessed, is going to always be a better option as far as how our body works and how our body breaks things down. So just keep that in mind. If you get a Vitamix, you can throw all the fruit and the veggies in there, and then you get all the fiber with it, and you still can have a juice. So that might be a better option. And then grains and starches. The grains, of course, has the fiber as well and can help us with the digestion, reduce blood cholesterol. And sugar is in starches, and it's in the fruits and vegetables, right? And that does help us with energy. I mean, we do need some sugar in our diet, and it gives us satiety, meaning that we're satisfied when we eat. The thing about sugar, one thing that I learned that was really helpful, is that when you eat a meal or even a snack, if you eat something that's sugar, let's say an apple, it still has the sugar, and you get a quick sugar high, right? You're quickly satiated as far as hunger goes, but it also has a rapid fall. It's longer lasting if you have the fiber, because it's slower, right? But if you're thinking of your blood sugar, it kind of comes up and goes down. It doesn't last a long time. Protein lasts a bit longer than that, and fat lasts the longest. So if you include something that has like a plant-based sugar and protein and some fat, you're going to be satisfied from that meal much longer. So instead of just having an apple, maybe have an apple and a cheese stick, and you're going to get some protein, you're going to get your sugar, and you're going to get some fat, and you're going to be satisfied longer than you will if you just have that apple. I try to think of that, even if I'm snacking, maybe tips. And I say do's and I didn't say don'ts because I don't like that guilt trip. And these are just some ideas. Of course, we talked about drinking plenty of water, eat slowly, allow your body to give your brain the message that it's full, because your stomach, when it stretches, it says, okay, we're good. And if you do that too quickly, the message doesn't get there as quickly. And so then you tend to eat more. And try to eat the balanced with the protein, with sugars, and with fat all together for a longer lasting satiety. Surround yourself with easy, accessible things. Think ahead of time, have snacks ready, chop up some vegetables, maybe have a veggie tray. That's really helped me if I already have some veggies cut up and they're ready to go into a salad or just for snacking. That has helped me to just plan ahead and prepare. Tune into your body cues. Listen for when you start to practice that, when you start to be mindful of when you're hungry and not waiting, because when we don't eat at regular intervals, our bodies start to get panicky, because that's our natural survival skill. So it says, okay, well, as soon as we get food, we're going to store it because we don't know when we're going to get another meal. So if you eat at, irregular intervals, that can trigger your metabolism to slow down, and it can also trigger it to store more fat because it gets nervous about when it's going to get food again. Avoid unrealistic dieting rules and shaming techniques because, well, if you're an emotional eater, that could trigger additional behaviors that aren't as supportive of what you're trying to do. Focus on less on your weight and more on just your wellness. You may not be at your ideal weight and still be healthy in many ways. I've known people who are very lean physically. They look really lean, but they have a lot of health issues. So just because you're trim and lean doesn't mean you're healthy, and just because you're curvy doesn't mean you're unhealthy. So focus more on just overall wellness rather than the scale. I don't even own a scale. I just got rid of it because it was too stressful. Try to avoid multitasking when you're eating because it's easier to overeat when you do that. Avoid loading your pantry with nutrient poor options. And that means things that are like my Reese's peanut butter cups, things that you know are your vulnerability points. Just if you don't load your pantry with these things, you're just less likely to, when you are feeling vulnerable, to go to them. And then avoid those engineered foods like the high fructose corn syrup, which is designed for us to be addicted to. I mean, it's so good. And I noticed a big difference when I moved to Mexico because they don't have that. They use real cane sugar in their snacks. Now they don't, their snacks are not as good tasting, which means I'm not as tempted to go and eat the entire bag as I would if I had Reese's peanut butter cups or other things that are full of these high fructose corn syrups and trans fats. They are designed to make you want to buy food. And of course, they make money, but they're not necessarily as natural. So if you can avoid those, they'll help you from not overeating those foods. I don't know everything about it, but I know that I've struggled so much with my own challenges. And those were some of the tips that I learned along the way that really helped me when I want to, shift my behavior. I've done my soapbox. Now I can move to the writing. So, given that, think about if there's anything from what I shared or just from your own experience that has helped you to make more balanced nutrition choices. And when you're writing in this next few minutes here, write about some things that you might want to do more of to increase your healthy nourishment practices. So let's start the writing. And on your mark, get set and write. Okay. Well, hopefully you had some insights. One of the things that came to my mind is I love playing pickleball, and I had a knee injury recently. And I know that if I am practice more healthy habits, I know I can be leaner and put less stress on my knees and be faster. I want to be able to move faster on the court and not worry about knee injuries. With, as I'm nursing my knee injury, I think, that's a motivator. That's a motivator. And actually, what really came into the conversation when I was talking with Luis about it is I'm like, I want to be faster. And I'm pretty strong. I'm a pretty strong person. I have a lot of muscle. But I'm still carrying extra, excess weight that I'm sure just by making some of these better choices with my nourishment, I can counter. So I'm excited with that. All right, let's get to talking about our project for today. Here are the prompts for the week. So nourishment of food. I am what I eat is kind of the subject. And the color is rainbow because it's a good idea to have rainbow color of food because usually the color of the food indicates maybe some of the vitamins and minerals that it might have. And so when you have a diversity of that, that means you get a wider range of those vitamins and minerals. So I thought that was a good color choice. And then the pattern is checkers. That to me made me think of like a tablecloth. The medium for today is gelatos, which is basically a water soluble oil pastel. So they're little like crayons. And then the tool or technique for today is the emboss labeler. So what I was thinking is making a little me, like maybe sitting in the yoga position because I want to do it horizontal. So kind of like in the yoga namaste position, and making it like building me with food and maybe foods that that I either like or that are nutrient dense, maybe a mix of both. And so that's kind of what's in my head. And the color is rainbow because I think a rainbow of colors of food is important, as I mentioned before. And I have my gelatos handy, and I have a rainbow of colors of those. So those will be fun to play with. Those will be probably more the top layer. I might do a little bit of some acrylics along the base. I'm not sure because I want to do a background, so I have to think about what that's going to be. But and then the tool and technique is the emboss labeler, which is this. So I pulled that and I'll write my little quote. I think I might write, I am what I eat. That's so far what I'm thinking of. And I'm going to be using magazines. And so I thought I found lots of pages that have a variety of food. So I thought I would use these images of food to basically build myself, since I am what I eat. So that's kind of where I'm headed. Now I do need to have something in the background. And I did pull together some things related to checkers. So I was thinking it reminded me of a tablecloth. So I have these checker stamps, which I could use maybe more at the end, but I was thinking of doing some maybe texture with this stencil. I was thinking I could make a little tablecloth that I'm sitting on, you know, that my person is sitting on. But I want to have a good background to start with. So I'm just thinking about what I want that to be. I could start with some tissue. Let's see what I have in here. I'm looking through my little box. So I think that's mostly what I've gathered so far. And I'm going to look through here and just pick something to put as maybe some background. I'm thinking about, I like the dress patterns. Could work. I don't want it to be too much competition. I just want it to be a solid. I might paint it. This one has coffee on it, so that's kind of fun. Maybe I'll just start with that. This is actually a napkin, which also makes sense with food. Okay, moving in that direction. It's a napkin and it's got coffee, so I think that works. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Healing Art After Hours. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment if you find this content helpful, or if you have questions, or if you want to see something specific, please write in the comments. And as always, happy creating, and also stay healthy, nourish yourself.